Alrighty folks, welcome back to part 2 where everything starts to go a wee bit sideways. This time I'll be attempting to make the bra from Simplicity 8510. The pattern calls for 2 layers, a lining and an outer, but I wanted to try and do an overlay with the organza. So the first thing I did was base the organza to my outer fabric so I could more easily treat it as one layer. Organza. I know I mentioned this in the other video, but I actually bought thread for this project. It's a big deal. Then begins the actual pattern instructions. The first thing I did was sew the darts, followed by the side and center seams. So watching this footage, it looks really awkward while I'm sewing, and that's because I'm just struggling a lot to keep consistently to the 5/8 seam allowance. It is not my typical seam allowance. And I'm left with 2 mostly identical layers. Then I sew the 2 right sides together along the top and bottom, leaving the sides open. Actually, first I basted along my seams because I was nervous about things slipping around and I wanted my seams to match up. I willingly basted. That's a reasonably good sign that I was really trying to do a good job. Yay! I didn't screw up the seam allowances this time. Progress, kind of. I'm gonna take it. So you see that dart right there? That is 9 layers of fabric. Soon to be 18 layers of fabric when I turn this inside out and have to try and press the seam allowance flat. So I don't know how that's gonna go, but wish me luck. Next, I turned the whole affair right side out and was greeted by this mess. Because I was working with synthetic materials, i.e. plastic, I tried to avoid too much ironing, nervous that I might melt all of my work. Thus, more basting. I made some more 1/4-inch tubes for my lacing loopies as well as my shoulder straps, and trust me when I say it's even more tedious than it looks. I turned in either end by 5/8 because I'm still trying quite hard to follow this pattern's seam allowances, and more basting, this time my lacing loops because my fabric was way too thick for pins. Then I ran a line of top stitching around the entire perimeter to secure my loops in place and keep my edges reasonably flat. It could be worse, it could totally be worse. And because I was still trying to follow this pattern's instructions despite my slight deviation, I ran a line of gathering stitches along either side of the center seam. Which worked out about as well as I thought it would, which is not at all. So instead, I carefully attempted to arrange my incredibly stiff, bulky center seam into something that might work. More of an impressionistic squiggle than a gather. Moving on, I decided I didn't like my tubes, so I made new ones with what remained of my fabric, this time trying to follow the straight grain. Come on. There we go. And while they did turn out very slightly, almost imperceptibly better than the first ones, I wasn't satisfied. So I attached some gold ribbon with a zigzag stitch, attempting to keep it centered on the strap. Oh, you're wrong. There you go. Now you're on. At this, I think I was reasonably successful. I also embellished a small band to cover the squiggle situation at the center front. Ruh-roh. Oh, well, perfect timing. Perfect timing because it was at that moment that I discovered I was completely out of ribbon. Just like with the shorts, I made some flower embellishments with the organza and glitter glue. Lastly, I stitched on my straps and embellishments, and the top was complete. And yes, the raw edges of the organza sticking out between my stitches were exceptionally scratchy, but by this point in the project I had completely run out of steam. But at least I finished it, so yay! The fit is, well, there's no getting around it. The fit is bad. Honestly, I kind of suspected it would be from the beginning. This pattern was designed for soft, lightweight woven fabrics, not 2 layers of thick, flocked satin with a very stiff organza overlay. I just wasn't sure how bad it would be. Now I know, so learning experience. That said, I don't think it's ugly. I think it's reasonably well constructed and looks pretty much like the concept sketch. I'm a little underwhelmed by the organza overlay. It looks cool under some lighting, but most of the time it's not very noticeable, so I question why I did all of that work. But now I have something to wear with my wings. Where and for what occasion I would ever wear this is still a mystery. But it's pretty, I learned a few things, and I used up some more mystery fabric from the stash, so there's that. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it mildly entertaining or informative, and thank you for watching.